This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
All right, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And as always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia, and for today's show, we're going to have a fun one. We're going to be talking about the NFL scores from Week 15, I think it was. Yeah, it was definitely Week 15. So you got 2 more games left, right? Yeah, we got 2 more games left. Yeah, so Week 15, and then we'll be talking about the NBA games going on from last night, and there's just pretty much now, there's just a lot of things we could talk about in the NFL. So we'll be talking about the NFL in the third segment. We'll be talking about the Seahawks, the Packers, the Lions, talking about Jacksonville. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to every team pretty much, but we'll talk as much as we can. And then for that fourth segment, pretty much how we do it, we're going to be doing talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. So here we go right here. Let's start off with the the Saturday game. Start off with Chicago at Detroit. So Detroit won this one 20-10. For Chicago, we had Mitch Trubisky with 314 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Jordan Howard had 10 carries for 37 yards, and Kendall Wright had 7 receptions for 81 yards. Right now, the Bears, they just need to build up their little receiving core that they have. Mitch Trubisky, even though he threw 3 picks in this last game against Detroit, he's getting better as each game goes on, and I think he's going to be a good quarterback for them. And then Jordan Howard, they need to start blocking for that guy. He's got a lot of how do you say, I can't think of the word right now, but he's just a really good running back, so he really shouldn't be putting up 37 yards. He should be near the 100-yard mark every game, just pretty much given the talent that he has. As for Detroit, you had Matt Stafford. Big game from him, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns. I know those stats aren't huge, but Detroit needs to win out. Any win that they get is going to be a big game coming from Stafford. You had Theo Riddick with 49 yards. Marvin Jones Jr. had 85 yards receiving. Eric Ebron had 33 yards and a touchdown. And Golden Tate had 3 receptions for 33 yards. And once again, Detroit won this one 20-10. We'll actually talk about Detroit later on in the show. As for the Chargers, they made us forget about them. They made us forget who they actually are. Okay, they started off really bad, 1-4 I think it was, and then they started. Then they went on this they went 6-3 in their last 9. Okay, so we're thinking, the Chargers are good. They're a good team. They're going to make the playoffs. But you know what? The Chargers always do this. Whether it's in a close game or it's just over the season, they'll make you think that they're going to be good and they're going to be a team that you need to worry about. And then they'll turn into the old Chargers and pretty much show you that, no, we were just kidding, and all these wins don't mean anything because we're just going to lose out and lose the big games. And that's what the Chargers have been doing since I could remember. Remember those Phillip Rivers teams with LaDainian Tomlinson? They had Michael Turner. And let's see, did they ever have any big-time receivers on the Chargers when back on those teams? I can't remember. But yeah, they were just a really good team. So you had LT, Phillip Rivers, and they'd always make it to the AFC Championship. Oh, is this the year they're finally going to the Super Bowl? Is this, just pretty much that every year. And you know what? They always came up short, whether it was the AFC Championship game or a playoff game. And this Chargers team obviously isn't as good as the LaDainian Tomlinson team, so they can do it in the regular season. So, are they going to make the playoffs? Probably not, because they're going to lose every big game that they have. But, they lost this one 30-13. Phillip Rivers had 227 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. Classic Phil. Melvin Gordon, 19 carries, 78 yards, 1 touchdown. Also had 6 receptions for 91 yards. Keenan Allen had 5 receptions for 54 yards, and Tyrell Williams had 3 receptions for 31 yards. As for Kansas City, Alex Smith, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt, big game from him, 155 yards, 1 touchdown. Also had 51 yards receiving along with 7 receptions. Tyreek Hill had 5 receptions for 81 yards and a touchdown, and Travis Kelce had 6 receptions for 46 yards. And, with the Chiefs, they're 8-6 now, so it's looking like they're locked for the playoffs. So, we'll see if they can do anything in the playoffs. But, it's the Chiefs. So, we'll see if they get bounced in the first round or if they end up making it to Pittsburgh or New England. As for the Miami Dolphins, they lost to the Buffalo Bills 24-16. Miami season is essentially over with this loss. Jay Cutler, classic Jay Cutler right here, all right? Goes out, beats the Patriots, has one of the best games of his career, I guess you could say. I mean, how many great games has Jay Cutler actually had over his career, like actual great games? Not too many, I would guess. But yeah, Jay Cutler goes out, has a great game against the Patriots. Next game comes, he throws 3 picks. Also had 274 yards, just not a good game from him at all. Kenyon Drake had another good game, 78 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. Also had 35 yards receiving. Jarvis Landry had 10 receptions, 99 yards. And Devontae Parker actually showed up in this one, 6 receptions for 89 yards. As for the Buffalo Bills, here they are 8-6, fighting for the playoffs still. I'm still waiting for that little heartbreak for the fans right there. But you know what? This Bills team might actually pull it off and make it into the playoffs. We're going to have to wait and see. But Tyrod Taylor had 224 yards, 1 touchdown. LaShawn McCoy. Tyrod also had 42 yards as he took off with the ball 6 times and had a rushing touchdown. And then LaShawn McCoy rushed the ball 20 times, had 50 yards and a touchdown, but also did have 46 yards receiving and a rushing touchdown. As for Charles Clay, he had 5 receptions for 68 yards. And for this next game, we have the Cincinnati Bengals heading into Minnesota. Minnesota won that one 34-7. And I feel like this was the easiest game to pick out of all the ones that were played. I mean, there's no one on this earth that could have thought that the Bengals are going to be able to pull off this win. Andy Dalton had 11 completions out of 22 attempts, 113 yards, 2 interceptions. Giovanni Bernard, only 30 yards rushing the ball, 1 touchdown. A.J. Green, bad game from him, only 2 catches for 30 yards. As for Minnesota, you had Case Keenum with 236 yards, 2 touchdowns. Teddy Bridgewater comes in, gets a standing ovation. You know what he does on his first pass? Throws a pick. He went in the game, only threw 2 passes, went 0 of 2, 1 interception. Latavius Murray had 20 carries for 76 yards, 1 touchdown. And Jerick McKinnon led the receivers on Minnesota with 7 receptions for 114 yards. As for Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers' first game back. Aaron Rodgers in this one, I mean, he looked good and he looked bad. So pretty much how you'd expect a guy coming off of 8 games missed and a collarbone injury. Carolina won that one 31-24. Rodgers had 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. Aaron Jones was the leading rusher. He had 3 carries for 47 yards. Jamal Williams had 10 carries for 30 yards. Randall Cobb, 7 receptions for 84 yards and a touchdown. And Devontae Adams had 5 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown. As for Carolina, Cam Newton had a big game right here. 242 yards, 4 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey was the leading rusher for that team, 63 yards on the ground. Greg Olsen finally had a good game since he's come back. He had 9 receptions, 116 yards and a touchdown. And also on the receiving end, Christian McCaffrey, 6 receptions, 73 yards and a touchdown. Once again, Carolina won that game 31-24, and Carolina should be a lock for the playoffs. I think now they're just pretty much playing for their division. As for the Cleveland Browns, they are now 0-14. They have 2 games left to figure it out to get a win, either Chicago or Pittsburgh. And I'll tell you this, okay, I'll tell you a little secret. It's not happening against Pittsburgh. But Baltimore won that one 27-10. Joe Flacco, 288 yards, 1 touchdown. Buck Allen had 70 yards. He was the leading rusher in that game. Mike Wallace, 6 receptions, 89 yards, no touchdowns. Ben Watson, how long has that guy been in the league? He's had to have been here for at least 10 years, but he had 4 receptions, 74 yards, and a touchdown. Is that the same Ben Watson that played for the Patriots, or am I getting confused? Cause he was referred to as Ben Watson on the Patriots, but I feel like now he's Benjamin Watson on the Ravens. So is this a different Ben Watson, or am I just confusing myself right now? Because on Twitter I see him refer to himself as Benjamin Watson and all that, unless it's a different, I don't know. Either way, if that's the same Ben Watson, dude's been in the league for a while. Then you got Deshaun Kaiser, 146 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Classic Browns QB right there. Isaiah Crowell, leading rusher, 72 yards. Josh Gordon finally came back down to earth, but I mean, kind of expected that against this Ravens defense. I mean, they weren't really going to give Kaiser much time to throw the ball, and they were pretty much going to make him throw mistakes. I actually predicted that. Go listen to the last podcast where I made my picks. I think it was actually last Friday where I made my picks. I told you guys that this was going to happen. But yeah, Josh Gordon had 5 receptions for 47 yards. Duke Johnson, 5 receptions, 40 yards. Also had a touchdown on the ground. As for the New York Jets, they headed into New Orleans, and New Orleans won this one easily, 31-19. Bryce Petty comes in, throws the ball 39 times, completes it 19 times, throws for a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Bilal Powell, 44 yards, 1 touchdown, was the leading receiver for the Jets, and Elijah McGuire out the backfield was the leading receiver, or I said Powell was the leading receiver, didn't I? He was the leading rusher, and Elijah McGuire was the leading receiver for the Jets. He had 48 yards and a touchdown. As for the Saints, you had Drew Brees come out, throw for 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Mark Ingram was the leading rusher in this one, 74 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kamara had 44 yards on the ground, also had 45 yards receiving and a touchdown. Michael Thomas was the leading receiver for the Saints. He had 93 yards, 9 catches, and a touchdown. Mark Ingram also put in 5 receptions for 77 yards. New Orleans is now 10-4. Look at Nick Foles. out here making the Philadelphia Eagles still looking like a great team. They won that game 34-29 against the New York Football Giants. You had Nick Foles out here, 237 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. J.J. comes out. He was the leading rusher for the Eagles, had 12 carries for 49 yards. Nelson Aguilar had 7 receptions for 59 yards, 1 touchdown. Ertz also brought in 56 yards through the receiving the ball and 1 touchdown. And Alshon Jeffrey also had 49 yards and a touchdown. As for those New York Giants, you had Eli Manning with 434 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Wayne Gallman was the leading receiver. He had 8 carries for 39 yards. Orleans Darkwa had 9 carries for 7 yards and a touchdown. Sterling Shepard had 11 receptions, 139 yards and a touchdown, and Evan Ingram had 8 receptions for 87 yards. As for this next game, you had the Arizona Cardinals heading into Washington. Washington won that one 20-15. Blaine Gabbert had 189 yards, 1 interception. Kerwin Williams, 61 yards rushing. Larry Fitzgerald also had 5 receptions for 60 yards. As for Washington, Kirk Cousins, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns. How is this guy going to become the highest paid quarterback of all time in the offseason with these numbers? Are you serious? Samaje Perine had 37 yards, leading all rushers, and Jamison Crowder had 55 yards receiving and a touchdown. As for those LA Rams, and I'll talk about this game, but I'm going to talk more about Seattle later on in the show. I can't wait to talk about them, but the Rams beat down on Seattle in Seattle, 42-7. Jared Goff, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Todd Gurley, 152 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also had 28 yards receiving and a touchdown in the air. Robert Woods had 6 receptions for 45 yards and a touchdown. As for those Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson, 142 yards, 1 touchdown. Also had 39 yards on the ground, was the leading rusher for that team. And as far as Seattle's receiving, all bad numbers. I mean, you had Luke Wilson with the only touchdown for a 26-yarder. And then J.D. McKissick led all receivers. And that's kind of sad to say because that guy's a running back, but he had 38 yards receiving. As for probably the game of the week and maybe the game of the year, you had New England heading into Pittsburgh. There's a lot of talk on whether or not it was a catch, whether or not it wasn't. Ref said it wasn't, so it wasn't. New England won this game 27-24. Tom Brady had 298 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Deion Lewis had 13 carries for 67 yards, 1 touchdown. Rex Burkhead had 4 carries, 12 yards, 1 touchdown before he came out with a knee injury. Probably going to be gone for the rest of the season. Rob Gronkowski had a big game, 9 receptions for 168 yards. Brandon Cooks, 4 receptions, 60 yards, and a touchdown. And let's see, as far as Pittsburgh goes, you had Ben Roethlisberger with 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Le'Veon Bell had 24 carries for 117 yards and a touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster had 6 receptions for 114 yards. And Martavius Bryant had 4 receptions for 59 yards and a touchdown. Pittsburgh in this one, I mean, I've been talking about how they're the best team in the AFC year after year. Oh, so, before I even get into that, Antonio Brown tore his calf muscle. Personally, I didn't need that. I did not need that. I'm in the championship in one of my fantasy leagues, and I had Antonio Brown. I mean, I still got Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, Josh Gordon, and I mean, I got a bunch of players I could play on my flex, but I mean, just not good for me or the Steelers. I mean, it's expected that he's going to be back for the postseason, but I mean, you got to think if this guy would have played in this game, I mean, he already had like 3 catches for 30 yards, I think it was, before he went out. So, I mean, if he stays in this game, Pittsburgh probably wins it. But nonetheless, I mean, he's out. Pittsburgh's now the best team in the AFC. And Pittsburgh just has this whole problem where, I mean, they just don't beat New England. I don't know how that's going to happen in the playoffs. I mean, they're going to be playing in New England since New England's going to lock up that number 1 seed. So, who knows? I mean, is Pittsburgh even going to make it to the AFC Championship now that you got Jacksonville playing well? I mean, that's going to be a team that we're going to be talking about later on in the show. And Jacksonville, if you remember, early on in the season, blew out Pittsburgh. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But as for this next game, we had the Tennessee Titans, and boy, are they imploding. Started off 8-4. Now they're 8-6. Gonna lose the next 2 games. I'll put a little bet on that. They're gonna be playing the Jags and the Rams. Not in that order. I think it's Rams then Jags. But Titans aren't beating either of those teams, so Titans are gonna miss on the playoffs. I'm calling that right now. It's a lock. But the San Francisco 49ers won this game 25-23. Marcus Mariota, 241 yards, 2 touchdowns. DeMarco Murray, 18 carries, 59 yards. Derrick Henry only had 7 carries for 19 yards. Rashard Matthews had 6 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown. Delaney Walker had 5 receptions for 37 yards and a touchdown. As for these 49ers, It's looking like they actually have their quarterback of the future. Jimmy Garoppolo's no joke. The guy came out here, threw 43 passes, completed 31 of them, 381 yards, 1 touchdown. Carlos Hyde was the leading rusher for the 49ers, only 16 carries on 25 yards. Marquise Goodwin had 10 receptions for 114 yards. He's been playing extremely well since Jimmy Garoppolo came out and became the starter. And you got to feel bad for C.J. Beathard. I mean, the guy didn't play bad. I mean, the guy was getting killed out there, getting sacked on every play, pretty much took off at the ball, took a beating on that too. And here Jimmy G comes in, and boom, team's playing a whole lot better. But Garrett Selleck, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo's favorite tight end, 3 receptions, 63 yards, and a touchdown. As for the Sunday night game, the Raiders are now, in result of this game, the Raiders are pretty much out of the playoff picture. Dallas won this one 20-17. Dallas is actually very well in the playoff picture in the NFC. We'll talk about that too. But yeah, Dallas won this one 20-17. Dak Prescott, 212 yards, 2 interceptions. Man. Alfred Morris, 16 carries, 61 yards. Dak Prescott also took off the ball 6 times, had 32 yards and a touchdown. And Rod Smith put in a touchdown too with 13 yards on the ground. Dez Bryant had 2 catches for 59 yards, and Jason Witten had 4 catches for 47 yards. As for the Oakland Raiders, you had Derek Carr with 171 yards, 2 touchdowns. Marshawn Lynch had 76 yards on the ground with 16 carries. Seth Roberts was the leading receiver. He had 3 receptions for 52 yards. Michael Crabtree had 7 receptions, 39 yards, and 2 touchdowns. As for the Monday night game, this game broke me right here. Not because of who won or who lost. So coming into this game, right? I have one player playing in my fantasy team, okay? This is in the semifinals. That player, Julio Jones, okay? Let me tell you why Julio Jones is now my least, I don't, hate NFL players or anything like that, and I don't really like the fans who do end up hating NFL players, but Julio Jones is pretty close to that level for me, okay? The guy, all I need is 6 points. All I need is 6 points, okay? That's it. Just 6, not even that 6 points, 5.7 points, okay? That's all I need. Just that. And he comes out here, gets 54 yards receiving in the first half, and doesn't catch a ball in the second half. And I lose by 0.5. I lost by 0.5 in my fantasy football semifinal game. All right, in my league, yeah, I made the championship, but you know what? You know who tears their calf muscle? Antonio Brown. So you know what? Just not a good weekend for me. But as for the game, we had Atlanta winning 24-21. They need to win one more, and they'll pretty much be in the playoffs. But if not, they're going to be hurting. But yeah, Matt Ryan had 212 yards, 1 touchdown. Devontae Freeman, 22 carries, 126 yards and a touchdown. He was also the leading receiver. Thanks a lot, Julio. Devontae Freeman had 68 yards receiving, and Julio Jones had 3 receptions for 54 yards. Man, that hurt to read. Jameis Winston had 299 yards, 3 touchdowns. Peyton Barber started in this game. He had 53 yards on the ground. Mike Evans, 5 receptions for 79 yards and a touchdown. And that's actually it for the games right there. That was the Monday night game. Again, though, I mean, even talking about that whole Julio Jones, I don't even want to talk about it. But, yeah, we're going to be talking more about the NFL in the third segment, so stay tuned. But up next, we'll be talking about the NBA. We'll be talking about the scores from yesterday and pretty much talking about whatever comes to my mind for the NBA, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. In that last segment, we basically talked about, actually not basically, we did talk about the games from Week 15, gave the scores and stats for each of them, talked a little bit about each of them. And once again, thanks Julio Jones for making me lose in my fantasy football playoff semifinal game. You owe me $50. I'll be tweeting at you shortly. But just anything else? I mean, there's a lot that we got to learn about the NFL. I mean, Seattle's window, it could be closing, and just based off of that blowout from the Rams, and the Patriots just might be the team who wins the Super Bowl again, so we're just going to have to wait and see. But for this segment, let's switch it up, and we're going to talk some NBA, so let's get into it right now. We got the Sacramento Kings. They headed into Philadelphia. Sacramento won that one 101-95. Zach Randolph had 27 points in that one. De'Aaron Fox started, only had 2 points, played 11 minutes only. Let's see, off the bench, you had Frank Mason with 16 points, shot 7 of 9. As for the 76ers, you had, you had Robert Covington with 17 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 5 of 19 in that one. Ben Simmons had 13 points, 9 assists, 12 rebounds, shot 5 of 6. And Dario Saric had 11 points, 9 rebounds, shot 3 of 10. This Sixers team, it's pretty much known that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are going to be the building blocks for this team, and those are going to be the franchise players right there. But this team it's just now, I mean, with Joel Embiid having not played these last couple of games with a sore back, and it's looking like he'll be back on Christmas. But just now with the 76ers team, it's looking like without Joel Embiid, they're pretty much just another lottery team. And I'm not trying to say the Sixers are bad or anything like that. That's not even close to what I'm saying, but I'm just trying to show how important Joel Embiid has become to that team, and pretty much now he is the best player on that team, I feel. I mean, Ben Simmons is good and all, and he's going to win Rookie of the Year, but Joel Embiid is just head and shoulders away from, is that the phrase right there? Is that the phrase? Head and shoulders away, head and shoulders atop. I don't know. Either way, he's just way better than Ben Simmons, and this Philly team needs Joel Embiid, and hopefully he figures out a way to stay healthy. But, just like I said, I mean, Sacramento came out and won this 101-95. When you're losing to Philly is now 14-16. I didn't even see that. Is Philly going to make the playoffs this year? I don't even know. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But, this team needs Joel Embiid in order to be a functioning good team. I'm talking about this year, too, not talking about from the future. Because in the future, they're probably going to be a team that are going to be competing for the final, competing in the Eastern Conference Championship, along with those Boston Celtics. But I mean, those are years from now, so we'll see. But as for this next game, you had the New Orleans Pelicans. They headed into Washington. Washington won this game 116-106. Did you guys know that John Wall is back? The guy's been back for like 3 or 4 games. I've been talking about his stats on the last couple of podcasts, but I mean, it's not talked about. Why does ESPN never talk about John Wall? Like, if LeBron came back, you'd know about it, okay? If James Harden came back, you'd know about it. Is John Wall not thought of as like a top 10 player or anything like that? Let's see. Let's do a list right here quick. Okay, so you got LeBron. This isn't in any type of order. I'm just naming 10 great players off the top of my head. See if John Wall fits in there. You got LeBron, Kawhi, Westbrook, Harden, KD, Curry. Okay, Anthony Davis. I know I'm going to miss someone. Okay, you got Anthony Davis. That's LeBron, Curry, KD, Westbrook, Harden, Kawhi, KD. Did I say KD already? Then you got Anthony Davis. That's 8, I think, unless I named KD twice. And then who else? Paul George isn't in that top 10. Sorry, OKC fans. I think you'd have to go John Wall. No, DeMarcus Cousins. Take DeMarcus Cousins over John Wall. And then is it John Wall, or am I missing someone else? Let's see. I think I'm going to go with John Wall as my 10th best player. Yeah. I could be missing someone else. I mean, guys like Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, those are great players right there. They're not top 10 NBA players. Warriors fans, I know you really value those players, but I think you overvalue Klay Thompson, I feel. I mean, I know I'm supposed to be talking about the Wizards and Pelicans game, but let's take a little break right here. Let's talk about Klay Thompson, all right? Klay Thompson, I mean, how good do we think he actually is? I mean, the guy's a great shooter, without a doubt, okay? But do we think that he could go to another team and put up the same production that he still puts up now? Because if you look, about 90% of his shots are all assisted on. He's being set up by the players around him in order to hit those shots, all right? He's not a guy, I don't think, who... Because, I mean, there's been talks before, like, can Klay go out and be the top player on a team, pretty much lead the team? I don't think so. I think Klay is a great shooter, but I think he's a product of the players around him, all right? Steph Curry, that's a guy that can go out and lead a team. Same with KD. Draymond Green, he's a piece that you need on a great team, but he can't go out and lead a team. He can't go out and be the best player on a team. Simply won't happen. But as far as Klay Thompson goes, I mean, I'm not trying to knock him or anything like that. I still think he's one of the better shooters of all time. But I mean, if you were to go out and tell me, oh yeah, Klay Thompson is going to be the best player on the team, he's going to lead your team, I'd laugh at you. I don't think Klay Thompson is a guy who can go out and lead a team. And I think he's always going to be the second guy on whatever team, and that's not bad. I mean, the guy's, like I said, he's a great shooter, probably one of the best of all time, just based off of how often it goes in the net, obviously. But, I mean, Klay Thompson just isn't that guy. You go out and say, oh, yeah, that's going to be the guy that leads our team. He's not. He's a piece that you put on your team in order to complete it. So I'm glad I actually did this whole little top 10 players thing because that got me to this point. But, yeah, Klay Thompson, not a guy who can lead a team. I'll tell you that right now. You can disagree with me, but chances are I'm right. Just go check his stats. Go check how many times his three-pointers have been assisted on. All right, the guy's not he's not a create his own shot type player, right? He sits on the three-point line, all right? It's good. He got a good mid-range game too, but he sits on the three-point line, okay? Steph's going to drive in, draw everyone to him, or same with KD. They're just going to dish it out. You know who's there? Klay Thompson. He's just not a guy who can go out and lead a team and create his own shot. He needs the other players around him in order to help him get those shots. But, I mean, that's not a bad thing necessarily because it works for the Warriors, but I'm just talking about if you were to go to a different team, like the Lakers. If, you know what, the Lakers, that might actually still work. I mean, because he wouldn't even be the guy on that team still. Lonzo Ball would be. He'd be running the offense. So, I mean, Lonzo drives in, you leave Klay, Lonzo dishes it out, Klay still plays well. Like, Klay can't, if the Klay is the best player on your team, then you're in trouble. I mean, I'm only talking about like hypotheticals and stuff like that, but just something I've been thinking about now. But yeah, going back to that Wizards game, we went from the Wizards to talking about Klay Thompson, but yeah, the Wizards won that one 116-106, beat the Pelicans. Anthony Davis had 37 points in that one, 9 rebounds. DeMarcus Cousins had 26 points, 13 rebounds, shot 8 of 17. Drew Holiday, 13 points. Rajon Rondo, classic Rajon Rondo game, 0 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. Only played 14 minutes. I don't know why he's not playing more. Rajon Rondo is like, I haven't been watching the Pelicans more. Like I haven't really watched the Pelicans at all. But is it just because Rondo's coming back from a hernia injury or whatever, sports hernia surgery or whatever you want to call that? Or is it just because, who's the coach there? Alvin Gentry? I don't think Alvin Gentry's still the coach, is he? I can't remember. But either way, I mean, is Rondo that bad now to where he can only play 14 minutes a game like he's some type of rookie? Or are they just trying to ease him into it? Either way, I think the guy should be playing more. As for the Wizards, you got John Wall at 18 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds, shot 6 of 18 in that game, 4 of 8 from the three-point line. Bradley Beal, 26 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 9 of 19 shooting for the game. Then you had Mike Scott come off the bench with 24 points, had 4 rebounds, shot 11 of 15 in that one. As for the final game of the night, you had the Cleveland Cavaliers heading into Milwaukee, faced off with the Bucks, and the Bucks won that one 119-116. Kevin Love had 21 points, 10 rebounds. Jay Crowder, 10 points. LeBron had 39 points, 7 assists, 1 rebound, shot 14 of 22. Giannis Antetokounmpo had 27 points, 8 assists, 14 rebounds, shot 8 of 14 in that one. Chris Middleton, 18 points, 10 assists. And Eric Bledsoe had a big game, 26 points. And 5 rebounds. He shot 10 of 16 in this one. And like I said, that's it for the games going on yesterday. So let's do what we always do, and let's make some picks for tonight. First game up, you got the Miami Heat heading into Boston. I got Boston in this one. Boston's been playing well. They're currently 26-7. Should be, let's see, what are they? They're 2.5 games up on Cleveland for the number 1 seed, and I think they're just going to keep it going. So I got them over the Heat. You got the Toronto Raptors facing off the Charlotte Hornets. I got Toronto on this one. Toronto's been playing good basketball. And the Hornets are pretty much, they're not a good team right now. They're 11-19. You got the Indiana Pacers heading into Atlanta facing off with the Hawks. Victor Oladipo is pretty much showing everyone why the Pacers won that Paul George trade. If you had to tell me who could I have this season, like based off of this season, who I could have on my team, I'm taking Oladipo. The guy's just been playing well. And I think that has to do more because like Indiana, I think that's his home state. And I think it's just more like a comfortability type of thing. Because I remember seeing in the beginning of the season how he was going to be living with his parents and stuff like that because they live right by the stadium and all that good stuff. But, I mean, I'm not sure if he's still doing that now. It's just something I saw in the offseason. But, I mean, there's just something about playing like in your home state, at home, just like it's the whole comfortability factor, okay? If you're comfortable out there, like all these guys can go out and play basketball really well. Otherwise, they wouldn't be professional professionals in the NBA. It's that simple. Every single player in this NBA, whether you like them or not, has some type of ability and is a good player. Okay, they're a good basketball player. Whether or not that translates into the NBA doesn't that's like the whole nother thing. But either way, like I said, Victor Oladipo, no one saw this coming from him because he never really showed it before. But now that he's back in Indiana, pretty much back home, the whole comfortability factor, the guy can go out and ball, and that's what he's been doing. So I got Indiana beating the Hawks. I got the Nets beating the Kings, the Magic beating the Bulls. Let's see, next game up, we got the Lakers facing off with the Rockets. I'm going to try and watch this one. I'm going to go with Houston in this game right here, but Lonzo Ball has been playing pretty well these last couple of games. Then you got the Jazz facing off with the Thunder. Jazz are going to be missing a bunch of players, so that's the only reason why I'm picking the Thunder in this one. Don't think the Thunder are a good team, but you know what? They're back to 500. They're currently 15-15. Wow, that's so good. Let's see. The Pistons are facing off with the Mavericks. Dallas is actually favored in this one, but I got the Pistons. Boom, upset pick right there. The Timberwolves are heading into Denver, facing off with the Nuggets. I got the Timberwolves, I think. Yeah, I got the Timberwolves. Then you got the Spurs facing off with Portland. Portland's favored in this one, but I'm going to go with the Spurs in this one. You got Memphis heading into Golden State, which is Oakland. It's always so weird that the Golden State Warriors, just name them the Oakland Warriors for these last couple of years. But yeah, I got the Warriors in that one, and then the Phoenix Suns heading into LA facing off with the Clippers. I got I forget, is Devin Booker still out? I think he is. I'm not sure. Actually, the Clippers are missing a lot of players, so I'm going to go with the Suns in this one. Let's see if I'm right. Just to recap my picks, I got the Celtics beating the Heat, Toronto beating Charlotte, Indiana beating the Hawks, the Nets beating the Kings, the Magic beating the Bulls, the Rockets beating the Lakers, the Thunder beating the Jazz, the Pistons beating the Mavericks, the Timberwolves beating the Nuggets, the Spurs beating the Trailblazers, the Warriors beating the Grizzlies, and the Suns beating the Clippers. That's going to wrap it up for this segment. Next up, we're going to be talking some NFL. We're going to be talking some Detroit Lions, some Seattle Seahawks, some Jacksonville Jaguars, some other teams. So let's just get into that later on in the show. We'll be back. Stay tuned. And like I said, we'll be talking some NFL.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to this GSMC Sports Podcast. In the last segment, we recapped the NBA games from last night. The Kings beat the Sixers, the Wizards beat the Pelicans, and the Cavs lost to the Bucks. Yeah, so the Bucks beat the Cavs, and we talked about whether or not Klay Thompson could be the best player on the team and lead them. I said he couldn't, and if you disagree with me, that's cool, but I'm going to go out and say that I think I'm right on this one, and I think it'd be pretty easy to tell. Just go out and watch. Tell me, okay? Go out and watch Klay Thompson, okay? Go watch a Klay Thompson game. See how he plays. And let me know if you think from the way he plays, if he can go out and lead a team and be the number one guy. All right, and if you think so, then you think so. If not, then welcome to the club. But other than that, I made my picks too. And for this segment, like I said, we're going to be talking some NFL. So let's get into it right here. Let's talk about the Seahawks. Is their whole window thing, as we like to say, closed? I'm going to go out and say yeah. I pretty much made a face when I said that. Obviously, you can't see it because you're listening to me, but I've always liked the Seahawks, not as a team, like a favorite team or anything like that, but I've liked watching them. I like the way they play football, all right? And then I always thought that they were a good team, and I thought this year, if they were to make the playoffs, they'd be a dangerous team, but you know what? Just given the injuries and all that, and I'm not saying that the Seahawks window is closed because of the injuries, or because of anything like that, because I understand like injuries you can't control, and I understand if Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman were out there, they'd be playing a whole lot better than what they have been. But I mean, this team, like the reason why I think the window's closed is because you got Earl Thomas after the game against the Rams saying, you know what, Bobby Wagner probably shouldn't have been out there if he's playing with a hurt hamstring. He hurt the team, and the backups could have did just as good, if not better. And then you got Bobby Wagner coming out on Twitter, obviously, because that's what grown men do, okay? When we need to settle a whole little dispute we don't go and talk it out like normal people. We go out and we pretty much air our dirty laundry on Twitter just for everyone else to see and cause more problems in the locker room, because that's what men do, right? But Bobby Wagner comes out and says, and I got the tweet right here. This is a quote, and I quote, keep my name out your mouth. Stop being jealous of other people's success. I still hope you keep balling, bro. End of quote. Bobby Wagner, I understand Earl Thomas called you out after the game. I get that. And you know what? Let me finish on that. Okay, I get that. You don't go out and call, pretty much tweet about it. You don't do that. Especially in the NFL, okay? We all know how the media is in the NFL. This is a story that they're going to jump on, and that whole narrative is going to be the Seahawks are falling apart, and are they done? You know what? I think they are done. Russell Wilson, great quarterback. Like Seattle, they're not done, I guess. The Super Bowl window isn't done, but as far as with this core team right here, it is. They need to make changes, okay? They need a running back first and foremost. I don't understand. Ever since Marshawn Lynch, why does when teams have good running backs, okay? Let me talk about this for a little bit. When teams have good running backs and that running back leaves the team or retires, why do these teams think it's okay? Oh yeah, we can go out and do just get a bunch of guys off the street and it'll work. No, it's not gonna work. Okay, I understand the whole running back by committee type of thing. You know who it only works for? The Falcons, and I think that's it. I mean, the Packers doesn't really work for them. Okay, they win because of Aaron Rodgers. All right, anyone else? I mean, it really doesn't work. Mike Davis and Eddie Lacer or whoever they throw out there, J.D. McKissick, you really want those to be your starting running backs? Really, Pete Carroll? Go out and get a running back. I don't understand. Okay, in order to win this league, you need a running back and you need a defense. All right. Defenses win championships, and if you can't throw the ball, and I'm not saying Russell Wilson can't or anything like that, but say you're going up against a team like the Rams, okay, and they're shutting you down throwing the ball. You can't just go out and give it to Mike Davis because the guy, he's got talent, but I mean, he's not good enough to go up against a team like the Rams and be successful. You need a top running back. You'll succeed with a running back, and it just doesn't make sense to me why these teams never go out and get running backs after their top ones leave. Okay, Colts had Edgerrin James when he's gone. Who besides Frank Gore? Yeah, even with Frank Gore, I mean, who really has been a great running back for the Colts since Edgerrin James came out and left? Ahmad Bradshaw for a year? Really? You really gonna think? Oh yeah, Ahmad Bradshaw for that 1 year? No. Ahmad Bradshaw? No. All right, Frank Gore? No. Dude's on the tail end of his career. Love Frank Gore. Gonna be a Hall of Famer without a doubt. Should be a Hall of Famer without a doubt. But on the tail end of his career. Okay, they had what? That guy Donald Brown that they drafted from Connecticut a few years ago, 4 years ago. That didn't work out, obviously. Just Marlon Mack. I mean, he had a couple of good games. I thought, oh, yeah, this is the guy. No, it's not. Dude barely even gets 10 carries to begin with. It just doesn't make sense to me. But, I mean, going back to Seattle, I mean, this team, they don't need to blow it up, but they need to make some changes, whether it be getting rid of Earl Thomas or whatever or anything like that. Because Earl Thomas, I mean, yeah, he's a great player, but how often do you want to keep an injured player like that on your team? The dude gets injured every year. Okay, he's always hampered by some type of injury every year. I get that he has talent, but I mean, I feel like it's more hurting the team than it is helping now. All right, Cam Chancellor, not sure what he's going to do after this year. And Richard Sherman, there's been a whole thing about him not really being too happy in Seattle or anything like that. And his names have been surfaced in trade talks. And as much as they say, oh, the trade rumors aren't real, Richard Sherman's not getting traded. He was never in the trade talks or anything like that. More often than not, coaches are just lying to you. All right? Without a doubt, I'm sure that teams have called about Richard Sherman, and you know what the Seahawks have entertained offers. But nonetheless, I mean, as far as this core team is, core team goes, I mean, this has pretty much been the same team since they won the Super Bowl against the Broncos, and they've been trying to do that ever since. But, I mean, this team, it's just really not helping. When you got teams players like this calling each other out on Twitter and all that, it's not going to help. It's not going to work. And a lot of that has to do with Pete Carroll. It's his fault, okay? And, he's pretty much like a calmer Rex Ryan. Pete Carroll's always got his players' backs. back. Yeah, he's always got his players' backs. Yeah, I guess I gotta use that backs as plural, but it sounds weird when we say players' back. No, he's always got his players' back. Yeah, players' back. That's right. There we go. But yeah, like I said, he's always got their backs, and I think he's pretty much gave them a little bit way too much leeway as far as what they can say and where to say it. I mean, because you can't be Bobby Wagner and go out call out your teammate on Twitter. It's dumb. It's idiotic to me. I mean, why are you going to do that? You're just going to cause more problems. And you can't go out and say, oh yeah, they hashed it out. No, I'm sure they're still feuding in the locker room right now, and I guarantee when they see each other, they're not talking to each other or anything like that. And I guarantee you the players on that defense and pretty much players in the locker room can see that, and they can feel that. All right? It's not all roses and all that after this. It's not. Okay? As much as they say, oh yeah, everything's solved. No, they're human just like the rest of us. Don't ever forget that. All right? They got feelings just like we do, and I guarantee that as far as this team goes, I mean, there's problems in the locker room, and like I said, I think as far as this core team goes, their window is closed, but if they were to make some changes, then sure enough, Seattle can be back in it next year. But, I mean, you go out and you get blown out by the Rams, and one Rams player came out, I got a notification from Bleach Report, he comes out and says, you know, I was like playing the Browns. That's disrespectful. I mean, I get that the Rams player said that, but you're getting compared to the Browns. You want to be compared to the Browns, Seattle, after you've been a playoff team for, the last 3 or 4 years? It's just, I don't know. Seattle really just needs to figure out they need to make some changes or else they're going to be in trouble. The Rams, that division belongs to them, and the Rams are a good team. But let's see, who else do we want to talk about? That's all I got to say about the Seahawks right now. They really don't deserve any more of my time. But let's see. Let's talk about... All right, let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars for a little bit, all right? And this is like the first year in what? We're in 2017. When was the last time they made the playoff? They made the playoffs. I think it was like 2009. I mean, the last playoff game I can remember from the Jaguars, I think it was. Or am I thinking a regular season game? I remember there was either a playoff game or a regular season. I think it was playoffs. It was the Jaguars versus the Steelers. I think the Steelers won it, but it was like when David Garrard was a quarterback. Fred Taylor might have been the running back. I can't remember exactly. Let me see if I could pull it up on the good old Google machine as I'm talking about them, but. Yeah, right now with the Jaguars, I mean, throughout the season, pretty much been the consensus has been, like the Jaguars are good, but they're good, but they're not ready yet. Okay, and I think that whole narrative really, no way. All right, yeah. So last time they made the playoffs was 2007. In the wild card game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look at that. I got a pretty good memory. Yeah, so last time they played played in the playoffs was 2007. I said 2009, didn't I? All right, so I was kind of off. And I'm guessing if it's 2007, that means Fred Taylor was the running back still. But yeah, so last time they were in the playoffs was in the wild card game against the Pittsburgh Steelers on January 5th, 2008. Jaguars won that one, and they beat the Steelers. Let's see if I can get a score. I don't think I can get a score for you guys. So either way, they did beat the Steelers, though. And, yeah, so that was the last time in the playoffs, 2007. But now, as far as, getting back to my point, say Jacksonville were to win their wild card game and face off with the Steelers or the Patriots, Jacksonville can beat both of those teams. Jacksonville already blew out the Steelers early on in the year. They blew them out, 30-10, something like that. Didn't really matter. It was a bad game from the Steelers. But, yeah, Jacksonville, this is a team built for the playoffs. Not anything about it, okay? This is a run-the-ball, play-defense team. Got the best defense in the league by far. If you disagree, you're wrong. Simple as that. It's not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of you're just wrong. The Jaguars have the best defense in the league. There's no argument for it. Argument against it. And, like I said, they're running the football team. Leonard Fournette is a good running back. Probably been one of the better running backs all year. And the guy's a rookie. So, let's go into a cold-weather Pittsburgh Steelers game. That Steelers defense is garbage. Hot garbage. All right? This Jaguars defense, as we've seen, they can limit the Steelers on offense without a doubt. Okay, so, they can beat the Steelers. Against the Patriots, they can stop Tom Brady. This defense is good enough to where they can stop those players on that offense without a doubt. And, you want to go out and say, oh, yeah, well, they got Blake Bortles. The Jaguars don't need to throw the football. They don't. They'd be much happier if they just had to run the football. I'm telling you that much. Okay, and if you're stacking the box, they still got good enough receivers, and Marquise Lee and D.D. Westbrook now coming back from his injury, I think it was. Yeah, so they got those guys playing well. And Blake Bortles has been playing like a good quarterback the last couple of games. He's getting hot. So, There's a good chance that the Jaguars go out and make it to the AFC Championship. And there's a good chance that they could be playing for a Super Bowl. And if the Jaguars were to make it to the Super Bowl, that's my pick if they were to somehow make it there. All right, if it was like the Jaguars versus the Philadelphia Eagles or versus the Minnesota Vikings versus the Rams, doesn't matter who. Jags got the best defense in the league. Give me whoever's got the best defense in the league is going to win the Super Bowl. Whoever's got the best defense out of the two teams is going to win the Super Bowl. All right, so like a team like Jacksonville, I mean, that's going to be a scary team going forward, and I think we need to start giving them their respect. But that's all I got to say about them right now. As for this, we're going to do one more team. We're going to talk about, all right, the Detroit Lions. Okay, this whole wild card thing right now, you got Carolina at 10-4 in the 5th spot, and then you got Atlanta currently at 9-5, I think it is, in the 6th spot. Atlanta's going to lose to the Saints and Panthers, without a doubt. Atlanta could barely beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Atlanta's not. They're an inconsistent team. They're not a good team. They got talent, but they're not a good team. All right, Detroit's going to go out. They're going to be, who are they playing this week? Let me pull up the schedule. They are playing the Cincinnati Bengals. Detroit's winning that game, and then they got the Packers next week. Aaron Rodgers went right back on IR after they found out that they were out of playoff contention. All right, so Lions are going to win out. They're going to finish 10-6. Falcons, they're going to finish 9-7. No doubts. They're going to lose to the Panthers. They're going to lose to the Saints. They play the Saints this week, I think. Yeah, so they play the Saints in New Orleans. The Saints are winning that one. And like I said, they got the Panthers next. Panthers are winning that one. I have no doubts. Let's see. Cowboys this week. Ezekiel Elliott's back. They got Seattle. Seattle really doesn't know what to do with themselves. Cowboys are winning that one. It's going to come down to Detroit and Dallas, I think, for that last playoff spot. Okay, let me see right here. Seattle's done. If Seattle loses, which I think they will, they're done. And Seattle just needs to make some changes, make a bunch of changes. So let's see if I can get the standings up right here. It's not working. It's not loading. All right, got them up. Here we go. All right, so yeah, right now it's Atlanta at 9-5. Like I said, I think they're going to finish 9-7. Then you got Detroit and then Dallas. Green Bay's done. Seattle's done. Either Dallas or Detroit's going to get that spot. And I think if, I don't know who the whole tiebreaker is, but I think if they were to both finish 10-6, then Detroit gets in. And I think that's simply what's going to happen. And I can't wait for Matt Stafford in the playoffs. But either way, I mean, Dallas gets in. That's a dangerous team. Even more dangerous team than Detroit getting in, I feel. If you got Dallas making it in, then they're going to be facing off with the Rams. And, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott together, that's a good combo. So we'll see how it all ends up. But you know what? I'm going to wrap up this segment right here. Next up, we're going to be talking about anything else going on in sports. Anything that interests me. Maybe we'll talk more football. It doesn't really matter. I mean, this is pretty much we'll see what happens type of segment. But we'll talk about college basketball games from yesterday and anything else going on, like I said. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. In that last segment, we talked some NFL. We talked about the Seahawks. We talked about the Lions. And we talked about the Cowboys. We also talked about the Jaguars, too. I mean, as far as the Seahawks go, what we talked about for them was pretty much whether or not their window was closing with this core team, and I think it has closed. This team has locker room issues, and you got Bobby Wagner calling out Earl Thomas on Twitter, so obviously that's not good. Then I was talking about how I think Detroit is going to make the playoffs, or it's going to be Dallas, either one of those two teams. But if I had to make a pick right now, it would be Detroit. And as far as the Jaguars go, I mean, don't sleep on them. I think they could be a team that makes the AFC Championship and a team that possibly makes it to the Super Bowl and wins it. I mean, if they make it to the Super Bowl, that's my pick right there if they were to get into the game. But we got to wait and see about that. As for this one, Forgot our next show isn't going to be until next Wednesday because the holiday coming up, obviously Christmas. But yeah, our next show is going to be next Friday, so we're going to be making our NFL picks for this week. But before we do that, let's go over the college basketball scores from Tuesday, December 19th. So you had number 9 Xavier facing off with Marshall. Xavier won that one 81-77. You had number 13 ranked Virginia beating Savannah State 78-47. You had number 20 Cincinnati beating Arkansas Pine Bluff, I think it is. 77-49. These college basketball teams always play the weirdest teams with the weirdest names. Number 17 Oklahoma won 105-68. And there's a player on Oklahoma that's really been playing well, Trae Young. He's leading. I think he's close to leading the nation in points, and he's leading them in assists. So I mean, there's going to be a guy when the draft comes. It could be a lottery pick right here, even a top 5 pick, I think. So we'll see how it all ends up for him. But for this next game, we had number 8 Texas A&M beating Northern Kentucky 64-58. Wichita State beat Arkansas State 89-80. Wichita State is currently ranked 11th. Then you had number 21 ranked Texas Tech beating FAU, Florida Atlantic University 90-54. And then you had Arizona State beating Longwood 95-61. Arizona State's currently ranked number 3. As for Duke, for the games today, you got number 4 Duke playing Evansville, Seton Hall playing Wagner, West Virginia playing Coppin State, Baylor playing Southern. You got North Carolina playing Wofford, and you got Tennessee playing Furman, and Creighton playing USC Upstate. Is that University of South Carolina Upstate? Not sure. Like I said, all these teams got weird names. But yeah, those are the games going on today. And let's make our NFL picks for today. So Saturday's games, you got the Minnesota Vikings facing off with the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, this is an easy pick for me right here, okay? I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings. Shocking. I know. Aaron Rodgers comes back last week, throws for 3 touchdowns. Also says, hey, let me throw a couple interceptions. Throws 3 of those. And they lose to the Panthers 34-21 or 31-24. Then you got the Atlanta Falcons winning Monday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which knocked the Packers out of playoff contention. So now, Aaron Rodgers is back on IR. Brett Hundley comes back out. And obviously, Brett Hundley's not going to be able to play good football against the Vikings. So now, you got the Vikings who are going to win. And Vikings are probably going to finish as, let me see what the standings are looking like right now. You got, in the NFC, Philly is still the number 1 team, and Philly's got Oakland. Philly's going to beat Oakland. I have no doubts about that. So, I mean, Minnesota now is just playing for whether or not they get the number 1 seed and home field advantage throughout. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all ends up for them. But I'm going with Case Keenum and all those guys out there. I think Adam Thielen's going to have a big game right here. He's been kind of quiet the last couple of games. Same with Stephon Diggs. And Case Keenum's going to continue playing well. So I got the Vikings in that one. Next game up on Saturday, you got the Indianapolis Colts heading into Baltimore, facing off with the Ravens. You got to think that the people who come up with which games to put on primetime thought that Andrew Luck would be playing in this game, because I mean, this game is brutal without a doubt. On paper, I mean, there's really no reason to pick the Colts. I mean, their season's been done since Andrew Luck, since it was known that Andrew Luck wasn't coming back, which was pretty much the offseason. And as far as the Ravens go, I mean, right now they're playing like a scary team. They're playing like a team who can make some noise in the playoffs, possibly. Joe Flacco's been playing well. Buck Allen's been playing well. Same with Alex Collins. If one doesn't have a good game, the other definitely does. I mean, that's been the case so far. And then you got Mike Wallace, who's been productive, and then that defense has been playing extremely well too. So, I mean, I got the Ravens in this one. Like I said, there's literally no reason to pick the Colts. Frank Gore isn't going to be the guy who beats the Ravens. Neither is Jacoby Brissett. T.Y. Hilton's been kind of disappointing this year, and that Colts defense, I mean, what Colts defense? They haven't had a defense in 15, 20 years. So I got the Ravens in that one. As for this next game, you got the Dolphins heading into Kansas City, facing off with the Chiefs. Jake Cutler goes out, beats the Patriots, plays one of his best games ever, comes back, throws 3 interceptions against the Bills, because of course he does. I got the Chiefs in this one right now. I mean, I was a big hater on the Chiefs, and I still am. Don't think they're going to do anything in the playoffs. Probably get bounced round 1. And, because it's probably going to be the Chiefs are going to finish as the number 4 seed in the AFC, so they're probably going to be playing the Ravens. If that matchup happens in the playoffs, I got the Ravens big time, without a doubt. But like I said, in this game, I mean, matching up, I mean, the Dolphins really, I don't know, I don't understand the Miami Dolphins. You go out, you beat a team like New England on primetime Monday night, and then you go out and you play poorly against the Buffalo Bills. This has pretty much been the Dolphins' whole big thing right here. You go out, play well, next week come back, disappointment. So, I mean, there's no reason to pick the Dolphins in this one, and there's every reason to pick the Chiefs. Kareem Hunt came out, had a great game last week. Alex Smith has pretty much come back came back and he's playing all right now, I guess you could say. Not as bad as he was, but not as good as he was either. And it's pretty much, like I said, I got the Chiefs in this one. They're favored by 10, and I don't know if I take the Chiefs and the points, but either way, I got the Chiefs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are heading into Carolina. Carolina's favored by 10. I got Carolina and the points in this one. Carolina is by far a better team than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers gave the Atlanta Falcons a hard game, but I mean, Atlanta just has that whole habit of disappointing and playing poorly. So Atlanta, they really don't matter to me. But as far as the Panthers go, you got Cam Newton, who's been playing well the last couple of games, pretty much for all the season, I guess you could say. And like I said, there's really no reason to pick the Bucs in this one, so I got the Panthers. I know for a fact I'm going to go 4 for 4 in those last 4 picks I made. I definitely know that the Panthers are going to beat the Bucs. Chiefs are beating the Dolphins. Ravens are beating the Colts. And the Vikings are beating the Panthers. In fact, those are the easiest games to pick. But, yeah, like I said, I mean, it's just Cam Newton's been playing well. Christian McCaffrey's been playing well. And that defense has been playing well. As for this next game, you got the Cleveland Browns heading into Chicago, facing off with the Bears. If there was ever a game to do it for the Browns to win, it was against the Packers or against the Chargers. But now that they lost those games, if there was ever a time to win with these next 2 games coming up, it's this game. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pick the Browns. Ooh, that was tough. I just made my pick right now. I'm picking the Browns in this one. They can't go 0-16. There's no way, right? There's no way the Browns go 0-16. Okay, this team is not as bad as that Detroit Lions team that went 0-16. At least I don't think. I mean, this Browns team's got talent, but they're the youngest team in the league by far. I think the youngest team in NFL history. So I just don't. I got the Browns. Okay, I got the Browns. Bears are favored by 4.5. I think 6.5. But the Browns are going to do it. They're going to pull it out. They're going to get their first win of the season. They have to. You can't go 0-16 in the NFL. But, yeah, I got the Browns. I think Josh Gordon's going to play well, and the Browns defense is going to, or the Browns defense is going to do well to limit Mitch Trubisky. So we'll see. But, yeah, like I said, I got the Browns in that one. Don't let me down for the 3rd time. Come on, Cleveland. Next game up, we got the Detroit Lions facing off with the Cincinnati Bengals. Man, these are a lot of easy picks right here. I got the Bengals, whoa, slow down. I got the Detroit Lions in this one. Detroit has been playing well. Matt Stafford's been playing well, and they're playing for a playoff spot. So I think Matt Stafford's going to come out, and he's going to say, we got no choice. Let's go out and win this game. That's exactly what they're going to do. The Bengals, I mean, they're the Bengals. They're a boring team. They're not a team that excites you. And Marvin Lewis is probably going to be gone after this season. But we'll see how it all ends up. But like I said, I got the Detroit Lions in this one. Next up, we got the Buffalo Bills heading into New England, facing off with the Patriots. Oh my gosh. You guys, I've been talking about how, when the Bills are going to disappoint. The Bills are losing to the Patriots next week, and they got the Miami Dolphins next week. The Bills are going to lose their next 2 games, and they're going to miss out on the playoffs. Oh my gosh. It's going to happen, you guys. The Bills are going to do it again. They're going to miss out on the playoffs once again. It's going to happen. They're losing to New England this week. New England's been playing well. Tom Brady's going to win the MVP award. Rob Gronkowski's been back. He's been playing well. Plays his best games against the Bills. Deion Lewis is going to get the ball a whole lot more since Rex Burkhead's out. And that New England defense is going to do well against the Bills. You guys, the Bills aren't going to make the playoffs again. But we'll talk more about that Dolphins game next week. But like I said, I got the Patriots in this one. Next game up, we got the Atlanta Falcons facing off with the New Orleans Saints. We've pretty much known how I felt about the Falcons so far this season. If you've been listening to the podcast, I got the Saints in this one. Don't like the Falcons. Don't trust them. Saints are going to win big in this one without a doubt. Next up, you got the Los Angeles Chargers, not San Diego, facing off with the New York Jets. Got the Chargers in this one. Phillip Rivers is going to come out from a bad game, and he's going to come out and play well, and he might even end up losing to the Raiders next week, and that's what's going to keep him out the playoffs. But Phillip Rivers is going to come out, and he's going to play well in this one against the Jets. So I got the Chargers winning in this one. They're going to move to 8-7, and they'll be tied with the Buffalo Bills, actually. So did the Chargers play the Bills this season? Did they? Oh, yeah, that was the Nathan Peterman game. You guys, the Bills aren't making the playoffs. It's not happening. I can't believe it. The Chargers are going to finish 9-7. Bills are going to finish 9-7 or 8-8, but it's not going to matter because the Chargers have the tiebreaker. This is going to be glorious. All right. Next up, we got the Rams facing off with the Titans. Rams are winning this one big. Nothing to say about this game. Titans are imploding. They're going to lose their next 2 games. I got the Rams in this one. Next up, Denver Broncos facing off with the Washington Redskins. I'm gonna go with the Redskins in this one. I think, yeah, I'm gonna go with. I'm trying to make these picks 100%. These are some really easy picks. There's gonna be games like this that are gonna make it difficult. But I'm gonna go with Denver. Ooh, do I want to go with Denver? I just said Washington. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by his toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. All right, Mo landed on the Denver Broncos. I got the Denver Broncos in this game. I think it's pretty much a pick'em type of game right here. I mean, Redskins aren't really a good team. Neither are the Broncos. So, I mean, it's going to be either or. But I got the Broncos, I guess, according to Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Now we got the Jacksonville Jaguars heading into San Francisco, facing off with the Niners. Sorry, 49ers fans, but your 3-game winning streak is ending Sunday. This Jacksonville Jaguars defense is going to go out and cause trouble for Jimmy Garoppolo, and the Jaguars are going to win this game, plain and simple. As for the New York Giants, you got them facing off with Arizona. I got the Giants and I got the Giants in this one. I think they're going to be able to pull out their third win of the season. So I got the Giants beating the Cardinals. As for the Seattle Seahawks, they're heading to Dallas. I got Dallas in this one. Ezekiel Elliott's coming back, and they're going to end Seattle's season. So once again, I got the Dallas Cowboys in this game. And is there no Sunday night game? I don't think there is a Sunday night game. But Christmas Day, we got the Steelers and Texans. Oh, I can't wait till Christmas. We get to watch football. How often? I can't remember the last time we got to watch football on Christmas Day. We get those like December 23rd games or whatever, but I mean, this is the first time in a while, I think, because it's usually the NBA on Christmas, but here we go. We got the Steelers and Texans playing in Houston. Pittsburgh's favorite in this one, as they should be. I got the Steelers winning this one big time. And then you got the Oakland Raiders facing off with the Philadelphia Eagles. I got Philly in this one. Oakland, I'm done with Oakland. I've tried to back them up, tried to pretty much hype them up, tried to say, oh no, Oakland's got a chance. They don't. They're done. Can't stand Oakland. They're done. Philly's going to win this one. Nick Foles is going to have a good game because that Oakland Raiders secondary is probably the worst in the league by far. So yeah, I got the Eagles in this one. They're going to win it big. Just to recap my picks, I got the Vikings beating the Packers. I got the Ravens beating the Colts, the Chiefs beating the Dolphins, the Panthers beating the Bucks, the Browns beating the Bears, the Lions beating the Bengals, the Patriots beating the Bills, the Saints beating the Falcons, the Chargers beating the Jets, the Rams beating the Titans, the Broncos beating the Redskins, the Jaguars beating the 49ers, the Giants beating the Cardinals, the Cowboys beating the Seahawks, the Steelers beating the Texans, and once again, I got the Eagles beating the Raiders. And that's actually going to wrap it up for today's show. In that first segment, we talked about the Week 15 games, gave the scores, stats for those ones, talked about the NBA, talked about, what else we talked about? We talked about the Seahawks, whether or not their window's closed. We talked about the Lions, the Cowboys, the Jags, and for this segment, we talked about the college basketball scores from last night, talked about the games going on tonight, and we made my Week 16 picks. So like I said, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Once again, we won't be back till next Friday because of the holiday season. And so like I said, we'll be back next Friday. Thanks for listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Tapia, and we'll talk to you later. Stay tuned and have a good Christmas.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.